And my personal experience too, if I don't get emotional about it, but thank you. My dad was in the ICU for like 30 days. I think it was like 30 days at MGH.
Lazarus.
Yeah. Like a phoenix rising from the ashes.
Yeah.
He was in rough shape, and I would report back to Peter and some other people and my family. And so I think Peter probably appreciated more than my family that we're getting a bunch of numbers spit back and not, how he was doing otherwise. Although I was reporting that too. But, I learned a few things, learned how much you know about this stuff, obviously. And at MGH, I think they like validate your parking after 30 days. So they booted him into the respiratory unit, the RACU, I think it is. So he went down there for a little while. But one of the things I learned too as well is that I would bring back the stuff and the vitals and whatever, and Peter would say, this is sort of what I'm thinking. And then at MGH, I would be doing the rounds with the team over there and everything, and being a fly in the wall and adding my 2 cents and some of the notes that I had taken and things like that. They were damn good at the MGH, and I also thought that what a learning experience. Like I didn't go to medical school, but it was my advice would be like, if you want to be immersed in medicine and just the real deal where people are dying, and just fast forward your learning, holy shit, those people, like the
ICU
incredible
is
experience.
The ICU is incredible.
Yeah.
And we joked about it at the time, which was you basically did an ICU mini fellowship, because by the end of those 30 days, we'd have our call every morning, and we would review in systems, because in an ICU, you review everything by systems. You start with the neuro system, you go to the respiratory system, cardiovascular system, renal system, boom, 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 boom. And, it only took like a week for you to learn how to gather data, and then, how to report it. And I'm convinced, like, if you had 1 year of sitting in there, you would know, 80% of what a critical care doc knows. It's just reps, it's just that kind of exposure.
Yeah.
And you're right. It is, again, it speaks to this point of feedback that this theme keeps coming up today. I like how it keeps coming up. The reason I think critical care is so interesting and at the same time so teachable is the cycle time between intervention and feedback is so short. You want to know what happens to the pH on the blood and the VCO2 and the bicarb when you change the ventilator rate? You're going to find out in about 12 minutes. Do it.
Yeah.
Right. You want to find out what happens when you tweak this amount of norepinephrine and this much of vasopressin and this much of this and the IV fluids and boom, 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 boom. Look at the Swan-Ganz catheter. Like, you're going to see it in a minute. And you don't get very few things in life offer you the amount of feedback you get in a critical care unit. It's definitely a cool field of medicine.
And the few patients that you have, I would say that what you do in a sense is critical care, that the level of care that they're providing at the MGH and the ICU, and then I see what you do in your practice is I see similarities that your involvement with the patient.
Well, I don't want my head to swell too much.
Yeah,
but I want to point something out, which is it's really what the patients don't see is what's more impressive. The patients generally just interact with me, but what they don't see is, Ralph and Nicole and Mary and Heather. Like, they don't see the whole team behind. They don't see the research team. So, and I was talking about this with Ralph this morning. So we saw a patient and, spent 90 minutes with him, and it was awesome. And he had come in and looked at everything in his labs. So we finished reviewing all of his labs, and he goes, "Oh, by the way, I noticed you checked my ESR level and it was really low." And I was like, that is so funny. Like, yeah, I checked his ESR because his CRP was 6.6 last time, and I just wanted to make sure he didn't have something stupid going on, and his ESR came back low and his CRP returned low. And I was like, so after he left, I was like, Ralph, how awesome was that? Like, that patient had read every single one of the 87 numbers that we checked and was asked about the one that I forgot to bring up when we were talking. And I was like, I love that. I wish every patient could be that obsessed with their numbers, because those are the patients that get the most out of us, that extract the most value from us. I find the patients who are least probably engaged with us are the ones that are also getting the least out of us, and probably, frankly, don't appreciate the potential I think that we have as a team to kind of move the needle. I
think you're asking a lot of your patients. Like,
we do.
Like the be your own advocate. It's really it's the patient that has the most control over their destiny in many ways.
Yes, you have to put as much effort and emphasis into this as you would any other thing that you care deeply about. So if you want to take your golf seriously, like you can't just think about it 30 minutes 4 times a year. If you really, really want to be a thoughtful investor, like, yes, you will have professionals help you invest, but you still have to interact with those advocates constantly.